What is up, everybody? This is Toffee Blues USA, your source for all things Everton, American style. Gerry back with you again, coming to you taped from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and joining me for another, he's a glutton for punishment. So, yeah, joining me for another round, we've got sports journalist and Cincy Toffee, Jeff Wallner. Jeff, good to have you back, man.
Gerry, it's good to see you. You said gluttons for punishment. This is an Everton podcast. So. that's why we're here. It's why that's who we are. Well, not at the moment though.
No.
Not at the moment.
No, it's kind of a cool thing. Like I think it was Paul McAllister who contributes a lot on Toffee Blues, and his brother Terry's on Toffee Blues as well. Paul said, it's nice to start seeing the Everton that concepts kind of be given the stiff arm, the Heisman arm, if you will. Yeah, that's kind of a cool little, because you're sick of it. You're like, no, we got a nice lead. We're gonna hold on to it. It's cool. Yeah. So we are gonna get into more football and Everton stuff in just a second, but we did want to do intro with Jeff here. I have devised a lightning round for Jeff to ease him back into the program with strange questions that hopefully tell us more about him. So yeah. So Jeff, it's only 10 and it shouldn't take too much of your life, I assure you. And there's a couple Everton ones, but yeah, it could be about anything. Okay,
I'm ready.
All right, and if you need to take a second to explain your answer, too bad. No, that's fine. So, I'm like the easiest game show host.
No,
I'm just like, nah. All right, Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's begin. Jeff, what's something you like that most other people don't?
Oh, wow. That most other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think my musical tastes within the group of people that I'm surrounded by on a daily basis is rather unique. I'm surrounded by a lot of country music fans, and I like a lot of British alternative music and a lot of Brit pop and Brit punk, and so my music's somewhat unique to them. So I'll say that, even though it is very popular, but.
I was gonna say that's like a cool answer, man. It's like oh, it's a shame I'm the cool guy in the group.
Somebody has to set the standard.
Oh man, that is not what I was expecting. I'll put it that way. All right. So, question 2: if you played football, soccer, whatever you want to call it on this program, I'm fine with either one. What position would you play?
What position would I play? This is probably going to surprise you, but I've always, when I'm watching matches, I'm fascinated by goalkeepers. So a lot of people I think would answer striker or midfielder. Mm-hmm. I would probably be a keeper. I've got height, I've got length, and I don't know. I'll go with keeper.
Yeah, and we've got the tradition of American keepers. That works. So, question 3: which club's supporters bother you the most, besides the obvious answer to this?
Besides the obvious, well, obviously I guess I would go with. I would go with the second obvious, which would be United, because I feel for them because I'm so glad that this dark period in their history that lasted about maybe 3 or 4 months is now over. So, but yes, probably United fans. And then if I had to throw another one in, interestingly, on social media, West Ham fans I don't know what it is, but they tend to they tend to churn some things up on social media for whatever reason. So
you're not a big fan of Tina? Tina, the West Ham fan,
Right.
she doesn't like us. She's
Right. Yeah.
oh no. All right. So okay. So next question: Godfather 1 or 2?
Oh, uh, I'd say 1. It's been years since I've seen either, but the first one's always better.
I always have trouble with that question because it's always the most recent one I've seen. I'm like, oh, that is good, So it's
Right.
like, it's so. This is out of left field. This is the first question I wrote down because it's the most random one I could think of. Jeff, what's your favorite flower?
My favorite
Flower. See, it's so random. You had to ask me to repeat.
That's a very odd question.
I bring the thunder, if you will. It's
you know what, I'll say a red rose just because that's my go-to on wedding anniversaries.
there's nothing wrong.
Pretty much anything else. So yes, red rose.
Okay.
I hate to. Oh, wait a minute. I used the color red, so I apologize for that. I didn't think my answer through.
That's.
I'll just go with just a rose.
Just a rose, yes.
Of any color, a rose of any color.
By any other name. All right. So, number 6. What team in U.S. pro sports is most like Everton out of all the sports? Because I know you cover a range, so it's sort of, I'm curious what you think. And I know you're from Ohio, so I'm curious if you will go with an Ohio team.
Interestingly, I just had a similar conversation with a friend in Liverpool who we were direct messaging during the NFL playoffs, and we were kind of talking about that. And you know what I've arrived at? The Dallas Cowboys. And the reason I've arrived at that is that the Cowboys are still called America's team. Obviously, Everton had that moniker there for a short while. The recent success kind of mirrors because the Cowboys last won a Super Bowl in '95, year of our last trophy. Mm-hmm. And also it's a team that has a ton of tradition, legendary head coaches, a lot of success over their history, but in recent years has struggled a little bit. So Dallas, and they're blue. So
wow. If this were a longer conversation, I'd be like, hold on, here's why I disagree. But honestly, I don't have a better answer. So there's that. Next, which country's cuisine is your favorite?
Italian. Italian.
What's your go-to when you go to an Italian restaurant?
Any variation of Italian. Just good pasta, good homemade pasta. Nice. And if you go to there's a restaurant here in Cincinnati that makes their pasta on site. There's nothing better.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
Carlo would appreciate that.
I bet. If you were a member of the Fellowship of the Ring, who would you be?
Okay, this is going to be a probably a ridiculous answer in the minds of many, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you serious?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That is an incredible ansur. I love it. So
I do not.
Are you
Please
familiar? Explain. I'm so excited.
Is it a Harry Potter thing or what is that? I'm not.
Have you ever heard of the Lord of the Rings?
Books? The Lord of the Rings. Yes,
books
I have.
Or movies?
But I am not. No, I have not seen the movies or followed that. No.
That's such a good answer. I'm so excited because that tells me that adds layers. It's good that I'm excited because that tells me. I
want to know if there's anyone else out there who's watching this who is in the same boat that I am.
There's a lot of people.
Or if I'm the complete outlier. If I'm the complete outlier, then that's fine.
Please make sure that Jeff knows that he's not the complete outlier. Or at
help
least,
me out, please.
That's the kind thing to do.
Don't leave me on an island.
And to be honest with you, there's probably a bunch of folk who would come in and be like, you know what? I know what you're talking about. I've read and seen the movies, and I think they're awful and boring. So yeah, so it could be that they're saying you didn't miss anything anyway, Jeff. You know, so
Okay.
I do like that stuff. But all right, so this one I know you're into. Question 9, Jeff. Who's your favorite Beatle?
My favorite Beatle. Um, it's got to be Paul. But I would have liked to have hung out with Ringo. But yeah, Paul's my favorite Beatle, although I did just read James Patterson's The Last Days of John Lennon, and that book is absolutely amazing. Anyone who is a Beatle fan, it's a must read. So a greater appreciation for Lennon. But yeah, if I had to choose, I would say Paul McCartney.
Nice. And I have come up with a different question. So, sorry. My initial question I wrote down, I think it's a little too easy. So I'm going to go with something a little different as my final question. Jeff, when they make the Everton movie, when they do one day, what actor is going to play Carlo Ancelotti?
Wow. That's a really good one. That's a really good one.
Because I had some trouble, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture. I don't know. It's crazy, but the first thing that came to my mind was Al Pacino. But that's.
I agree. I totally, that came to my mind.
That's because nothing really better came to mind. I'm trying to picture of a gray-haired actor who maybe looks similar, but obviously the movie would, if it's about Ancelotti, then obviously it's including a younger Ancelotti, and then I think Pacino could play Ancelotti during his playing days.
Well, here's the thing: if it's an Everton movie where Ancelotti's the manager, then Pacino can handle that role regardless.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think it works. I think Pacino as Ancelotti works. Yeah, very cool. All right. Interesting stuff. Still smiling over Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's move on.
I can't believe you put me on the spot.
So
thought it was going to be a bunch
Jeff.
of football or music questions or something.
No way. No, I had to mix it up with all kinds of stuff. It's
Gerry.
Oh. All right, next topic. All right, now we are going to move on to our thoughts on Everton's most recent match, which if you don't know the result, you should just not pay attention to me for the next few seconds. It's a 2-1 Everton win over Wolves. So yeah, it's nice. So Jeff, let's talk about this one. I've got a list of topics to talk about, and honestly, I feel like most of them are worthwhile, but it's kind of hard to get past a starting topic, which was, I think, the biggest talking point going into the game, which was the lineup and formation. When you saw that lineup and that combination of players, were you like me? Were you like, how are we doing this? What is the plan here? Because I definitely did that little, like, whoa, what's the deal? Were you like me on that?
I was. I think I honestly had more apprehension before the team news came out, because I was obviously concerned that we weren't going to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And potentially Richarlison. Now, I knew DCL was out, obviously. We knew that Richarlison was going to be more of a late call. Mm-hmm. And I was concerned that we were going to have both of them out, and how that would go. but then to see, okay, Richie's on the bench, obviously fit enough to be on the bench. Okay, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the lineup, and your initial thought is, okay, well, what's the formation? How's this going to play out?
Yeah.
And to see James up top and Sigurdsson and Digne moving over to the left wing, but you kind of watched it play out, and it wasn't half bad. There were periods of that match where things got a little bit messy. We can talk about Tom Davies in a bit, but it really worked, and I think it's just another of many occasions over the past year and a half where we've put our faith into Carlo Ancelotti, and he hasn't let us down. And the players haven't let us down, because I think Luca Digne said after the game, he said, Carlo said, this is the way we're going to play this. And the players bought in, went out and executed the system, and came away with a win, another win on the road. Just really impressive. And I was kind of excited to see James kind of build into the match and for him to get some opportunities to score. But obviously he impacted the match in other ways, as he typically does. But I went into it with a lot of apprehension, but I think when the team news came out, I was more intrigued than anything. And then kind of watching it play out on the pitch in those first few minutes, kind of relaxed a little bit and said, and even when the goal was conceded, you felt like we were going to come away with a win in this match. It just kind of felt that way, the way things were playing out.
Yeah. I just remember, like, I was checking my phone, like I was on the road for a shoot for my job. So we were doing interviews and we were all over the road. So I'm sitting there checking my phone and I see the lineup come across, and I do the little mini freak out, and I'm like, what combination? What is the thought here? Because I'm like, okay, is Luca Digne going to be left back, and is he throwing Godfrey into one of the center mid positions? How is this going to play out? I did not know, and it is not what I imagined. I don't think I would have thought that. And I think a lot of times, I think if we'd have taken a loss on that, I think it would have been a lot of people talking square pegs, round holes. What are we doing? Which it's interesting to see that kind of preparation and see it turn out. Tactically, stuff worked out, but also the players have to know their roles in that scenario.
Doesn't it kind of lend to, and I know we probably are not unlike any other fan base, where it doesn't matter really what lineup is presented by a manager. There's always going to be some level of fume over that, and Evertonians are certainly no different. And sometimes I catch myself fuming over an Ancelotti lineup, and I realize that I am in no position as a mortal human to question Carlo Ancelotti's lineups. But I think what that match shows, though, is it shows that everyone adapted. Everyone had an idea, and maybe this plays into the quality of Carlo Ancelotti as a manager. Everybody had an idea of what their role was. Everybody had an idea of what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. And it was all about just individuals adapting, going out, making the plays you need to make, and coming away with a result, regardless of the combination of players or the formation. I think sometimes we make too much of that, because it comes down to professional footballers going out and doing what they need to do. And you see a guy like Andre Gomes come on late and make an immediate impact. Yeah. And I don't know where that left foot came from. But you see guys just doing what they need to do, Luke Adina doing what he needed to do. Ben Godfrey continuing to just,
right.
no matter where he is, deliver for us. And it was one of the more encouraging wins that we've had under Carlo Ancelotti when you consider what we were facing with the players available to us. But that's been the theme of this year, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. Over the big picture, underlying kind of moral story of this whole season is players and Ancelotti adapting around players being out and everybody being flexible and just figuring out a way to get the job done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a buy-in, and there's the only word I've got for it is mentality. Mm-hmm. There's a serious mentality shift. Look at the players. How many players have upped their game this season? How many players? I mean, you can see them in this game. Mm-hmm. Iwobi. Mm-hmm. You look at Keane, who is, by the way, I feel like I come on the show every time after a game. I'm like, and I'm just like, can you believe Michael Keane's passing? Can you believe how he splits, just bypasses lines? And he's putting these crossfield balls on. He played one across to Iwobi in the it was the first half, and mm-hmm. he put it right on his leg, right on his foot. And my kid looked around and was like, "You see that?" And I was like, "I know, right?" It was so nice, and I mean, I would say Gerry Mina has upped his consistency. Mm-hmm. It's just the players their confidence and they're buying in, and they feel good about themselves. They feel good about each other. There's trust. At the end of the game, we've got a 1-goal lead. It's not as much of a, when's it gonna come? When are we gonna Everton this? That's not their mentality anymore. Yeah, right. Every once in a while it happens, but it's not nearly as frequent. And I go into a final 10 minutes with a lot more confidence than I used to. Is there? Well, does it still linger, Jeff? Yes, it does. But
of course, of course. That's just that's who we are. That's ingrained into us. But if you're making a list of the players who have improved under Carlo Ancelotti, you listed them out: Gerry Mina, Michael Keane, Alex Iwobi, at times Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Yes. You can say that.
The more polarizing figures that we have on the club at the moment, but and then of course Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But everyone collectively has improved under Carlo Ancelotti, and we just like you said, it's just a mentality. It's a belief. It's a belief in each other. It's a confidence in they're just, I think they're better prepared to go out and play every match. Does that mean it's always going to go perfect? No. We don't have the world-class players up and down the roster like a lot of clubs have. We certainly don't have the depth on the bench that maybe some other clubs have. Right. But through everything, we're standing fifth at the moment. Mm-hmm. And dare I say it, we're a point off Champions League places, or 2 points off Champions League places. It's amazing considering the injuries that we've had in that period where we had the injuries and the suspensions, and Carlo's expression on the pitch line, Carlo's expression in press conferences doesn't change. No. We're all out here panicking. Carlo Ancelotti isn't panicking. When your manager isn't panicking, your players aren't panicking.
Right.
And they go out every match and they do their jobs as professionals. And that's what we're seeing. They go out, they put in a shift. And as Evertonians, that's all we ever want, is we want to see our players go out and put in a shift and play for the badge. And I think right now they're playing for the badge, they're also playing for Carlo Ancelotti, and that's what we want.
Yeah. Let's talk about strong performers in this one. Obviously, Iwobi got the early goal, King got the late goal. When you watch that one, who sticks out for you though? Because it's easy to just go goal scorer, you know what I mean? But there's definitely, I think there's some other players where you can take a look and say, you know what, they did well.
Well, yeah, what it's all about for this team, I think right now is you don't look at the guys who scored the goals. You're starting to notice the guys that make the goals possible.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Gomes. I think I saw a stat, and I think this is right. If I'm not, someone can correct me, but I think I saw a stat where 67% of Gomes's passes are off his right foot.
I think this was a David Hughes stat, by the way.
Okay.
I saw the same
I think
stat.
I saw that correctly.
He made a graphic that broke down all the Everton players' right and left foot percentages. And Dave. It was Dave that did that. So you're right. You're right.
Yeah. And off that set piece, the set piece amounted to nothing initially. Right. And then Gomes he wins the ball, he gets himself in a good position, and he, off his left foot, put it right on Michael Keane's forehead. And then
getting closed down, man. He was getting closed down. How did he whip that ball around the guy?
Yeah. And then the first goal, you had Luka Dean, right? And then James with the perfect delivery as we've seen James do all year. Mm-hmm. And then Iwobi in the right position with a clinical strike. I'll focus on Luka Dean because I still can't believe the guy's back.
I know.
and I know that sports medicine is a far cry now from what it was even 5 or 10 years ago, just what they can do with guys. But by all accounts, his ankle was tore up and he's back. And not only is he back, but he's playing as well or better than he was when he was first injured. Typically, when a guy has an injury like that, part of the issue with coming back is mental. Mm-hmm. You're not really confident on the ankle, and you need a little time to kind of not be afraid you're going to hurt it again or something. He looked phenomenal, and 4 assists in 9 games. And I got it right here. So 4 assists in 9 games. The only players that are better than that is Harry Kane, Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne, and Jack Grealish.
And who are they?
And who are they? Well, a few of them are members of my fantasy league team. But tremendous. And then we can talk about Ben Godfrey, because I think we all like to talk about Ben Godfrey right now.
He's just a landmass. He's just I can't get over. We were watching the game. Me and my family was watching the game earlier today, recorded, and Godfrey hit a guy and it wasn't like trying to get a foul. He just bumped into the dude. Dude went flying. My oldest looks over. That's not a foul, Dad. I'm like, I was like, you got to realize he's a pretty powerful dude. All right. So if he goes in, it's going to look worse. And we're playing Wolves, which has a lot of finesse players. So right. Just saying, I could see it being called, brother. You know what I mean? But I love the fact that there is this air of don't give a shit about him. Like, I don't care who you are. And that is necessary. We need people like that on the team.
He has not just an ability with his pace and his strength to run a guy down and win a ball, but he has a desire and the tenacity to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think at one point, wasn't it down the right, a guy, Wolves player was free down the right, and I don't know where Godfrey came from, but ran him down, got his body positioned in front of him, and took the ball off his foot.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And he's having fun playing. I think he impacts the players around. He has to impact the players around him.
Yeah.
The other guys on the pitch see him do that. And how can you not step up your game when you're seeing that young kid do what he's doing? Again, the least heralded of the signings.
Right.
I've said it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and everyone said, "Oh, great, we got Ben Godfrey." There were no billboards on Times Square. There were no billboards on boats in Miami. Everyone was still talking about James and Allen, right? And they're like, "Oh, great, we got Ben Godfrey, good player, highly regarded." I think we were all happy to get Ben Godfrey. Did anyone expect what we've gotten?
Not this quickly. Not this quickly. No, not at all. It's awesome. Yeah. So good. I like the fact that there's a total lack of intimidation of any kind. He defers to no one. He pissed off, I guess it was Neto. Something happened. I didn't catch all of it. But Decore's yellow card. Do you know what I'm talking about? Decore tripped.
Yeah, Neto's on the ground. And he's screaming at someone.
He's screaming at Godfrey.
It was Godfrey. And I didn't even see what happened because I didn't see Godfrey involved in the play, but yeah, he had him pretty fired up. Yeah.
The guy was screaming at Godfrey. And Godfrey, you wouldn't know it. They cut to a shot of Godfrey. He was totally straight faced, just like he wasn't screaming back at all.
Over the past few years, we haven't had players who got under the skin of other players that often. Usually, it's other players doing that to us. But yeah, he had him. He was mad about something. I'm not sure what, but yeah. Another tremendous performance by Ben Godfrey and really everyone. And I don't want to bang on. Do you want to talk about Tom Davies or?
Let's. You know what? Mention him. He exists. People talked about him after the game. People talked about him during the game. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say about Tom Davies, he's a little. He's perplexing, because there were a few occasions in that match where you see him. He's in good position. He wins. He'll win the duel. He'll win the ball, and you think great job by Tom Davies.
Right.
And then his pass out is horrible, and it creates more danger than what we had initially because of where he's giving up the ball. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he gives it up and then immediately leads to a chance. But eventually it leads to a chance. And I think he lost the ball and it led to the first goal. Now it didn't happen right away. And Decore,
Decore corner.
Yeah, right. And then Decore got beat around the edge, which kind of set up that.
That was a strange play because he was going out to cover the guy. He was not prepared for that guy just to make that touch to the left at all. No. And you don't see Decore in that position. Normally he jockeys a lot better. He gets lower and he's able to move side to side a lot better. But he went up there and he got caught standing up. He was not expecting that dude to go left that quickly. Yeah. I was surprised by that actually.
But it's the easy pass and that Tom Davies needs to make. And I don't know what his stats were. Maybe if you look at the whole match, maybe it wasn't, and maybe it's because there's so much focus on him.
Yes,
I'm guilty of that. I catch myself watching Sigurdsson and I catch myself watching Davies, and kind of after the match I can kind of list, okay, here's the mistakes they made. Well, other guys are making mistakes too.
Yeah,
you kind of, there's so much focus on one or two guys. But Tom Davies is getting an opportunity, and he's getting an opportunity because we've had injuries. We don't have the depth So Tom Davies needs to play. Carlo Ancelotti is showing him a lot of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to step up. He needs to step up his level of play and just the simple things. There wouldn't be as much criticism, I think, if he just did the little things, nothing spectacular, just the little things. So yeah,
you bring up some good points, man. I thought he was sloppy in possession this game. That corner that he gave up that led to their goal eventually, right? He was cutting off. At first, you're like, oh, wow, good. He's cutting off that cross that's getting to the player. It was headed to a player who could have had a shot. But then his leg came around and he knocked it out of bounds. And
right.
Keane kind of reached out like, it's okay, man. You know, kind of like.
His feet just kind of got caught underneath him.
Yeah.
And it was an unlucky carom because his foot just happened to hit it perfectly and the ball shoots out.
Yeah. You know? And it was, but he had so many heavy touches where he would go in, win the ball, and his first touch was too heavy, and it leads to someone coming in and just starting the other, transitions like that. And it happened a little more than usual, I think, in this game. And I definitely saw he is guilty of maybe some quick passes that maybe aren't the best option. It does happen. I will say I don't think he's been as bad as this in previous matches.
Right.
Like recently, I think he's had an uptick in his performances. I think that's just an eye test, by the way. I don't have like a list of stats that tattooed on my arm where I'm like, hold on, Tom Davies. I don't have that. I can just tell you, I felt like he was taking care of the ball better. And it seemed like it was a Tom Davies that was being more mindful of his touches. And I felt like this game he was just a little less careful. Maybe the best way that I can say it. But so I think a little criticism's fine on him. But I don't think it was the reason. I don't think it was that big, that huge of an impact, if that makes sense. Like his mistakes. I even thought Decore didn't have his best game. And he's a player I love Decore, all right? But he just didn't have his best game. I thought he gave the ball away a decent amount and just not – I don't know. A guy like him, he's an energy guy. And if he lets you down on defense even once, it's an oddity. It just doesn't happen often, in my opinion. But so, yeah. But anyway – so we're almost done talking about Wolves. I wanted to point out they had no shots on goal that were actually on frame in the second. The closest one was, I guess it was Ruben Neves hitting the
volley.
Oh no, there was a free kick he took. The volley was close to the left side. The volley was beautiful, by the way. Just gonna say it.
Yeah,
Ruben Neves is a good player. Just saying. But no, it was a free kick that pegged the post, the right side, the right upper corner, I think, beautifully struck. Yeah, but technically, because it didn't go in, and it wasn't not on goal. Hey, so I wanted to say that's something our guys have been pretty solid at doing, is shutting down opportunities in the second half of games lately, and I think that's pretty great. And again, that's comforting as a fan. Yeah. So, any final thoughts on this one, Jeff?
No, just to reiterate that it was one of the more satisfying wins that we've had this season. I think, just all things considered, considering the circumstances with DCL and with Richarlison, going on the road against Wolves, who can be a pesky club at times, and certainly have been for us. And just to see everybody just make the best of the situation they were in and come through with a win, it raises the confidence level just that much more. Yeah. And I really hope we get a chance to I really hope we get a chance to play on Sunday, because I think we're taking a lot of momentum into that match, and then we get a little bit of a break from the league, and it would be nice to kind of carry momentum into a break. So I really hope that we play on Sunday, because I think the win over Wolves is something we can really, really build off of.
Yeah, I'll be curious if something happens there with that Sunday match. One last thing on this one, I saw some people taking screenshot of the end, the last corner of the game, showing Gerry Mina's elbow going into someone's Gibbs White. It was somebody's head. And they showed just that screenshot of his elbow going into the head, saying that was naughty and that should have been a red card and that should have been all kinds of stuff. Well, I specifically watched for that play, knowing that going in, okay? And watching the play, I saw two players jump up in the air with their elbows out, their arms out. The player who got hit in the head, his elbows were out as well. However, because Gerry Mina was taller and got up higher, his made connection, and the other guy's arm went into, Mina's like chest area.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people were saying that should have been a foul. How did that get overlooked? How did VAR not see that? And I'm kind of like, well, if two players go up with their arms out like that, I mean, how do you call that? I don't really know. And also, right before that corner, I watched a player come up to Gerry Mina and when his back is turned and just shove. Play is over, just comes up to him and does that to his back. Shoves him in the back before the corner. Gerry Mina just kind of turns around, looks. I don't even remember what player it was. Came up, boom, right in his back, like the play was over. So I think Mina's getting under people's skin too. Just saying. But yeah, that was one of those where I was kind of like, I because of the contact made, I get it. But when you have two players that kind of both go in with the same intention with the arms out, I feel like that's Premier League corners. I feel like it's every single Premier League corner when both players go out with their arms up. Is that just me or what?
Well, there's a lot of jockeying for position, and there's a lot of contact. You've got some big bodies in there, and especially when you have Michael Keane and Gerry Mina, those are two giants in there, and there's going to be some contact. And the difficult part is that a lot of times they're the ones who are going to get called for the foul because they're getting over top of a guy, or they're bodying up a guy, and obviously they're going to make more of an impact with their size. But I don't know. I didn't think really much of that at all. I don't recall the commentators making a huge deal about it. I heard much more about that after the game was over.
Yeah, I saw they replayed it when it happened.
I saw the replays, and but
it made me think that VAR looked at it in one way or another, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just one of those things where, again, in the past, that would have made me, I would have expected that call, if that makes sense. So,
right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Nice 3 points. We'll take it. Even if we didn't get like 80 chances in the game, 3 points, and I'm down with it. I would even say I'm here for it. So there's the next one. Let's do mailbag, Jeff. This is where really crazy mailbag, music would come in. Yeah, la la la. There we go. All right. So these are questions sent in from Instagram and Reddit. So let's start from, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I am going to butcher some of these names, these usernames. I'm just saying, so I'm sorry in advance. Okay. So, KGBN 923 asks if you could have any current U.S. men's national team or youth player signed for Everton, who would it be? Now, these are currently active players, so you can't say, oh, Tim Howard. You know what I mean? Like, these need to be like, players that could feasibly, you're thinking, could do a job for Everton. That was the thing that was tripping me up, Jeff, was we've got some good, promising young players that I don't think are quite ready for Premier League.
Right.
That are talented and I think are on a path, but not quite ready for us. So where do you go with this one? Because I'm super curious.
It's a really tough question. We had Anthony Robinson, and I had an opportunity to potentially bring him back. He was a player who I thought was making a lot of progress. So yeah, there's him. Obviously, you can dream about Everton one day getting their own Christian Pulisic. Since we had Landon Donovan at one time, and obviously Tim Howard. I really like Aronson, but Aronson will trap. I could make a lot of people mad though and say that Michael Bradley in blue. That I don't know if you want to kind of increase your viewership. You can this guy wants Michael Bradley at Everton. That'll do it. So
I'm imagining,
talk about polarizing figures. We're sitting here talking about Tom Davies and Gylfi Sigurdsson. Talk about polarizing figures. How about Michael Bradley?
Michael Bradley. Oh my gosh. The fume would be so real. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that's a tough question though. That's tough. There are a lot of U.S. men's national team as far as young players. There's a pipeline building now, and we've seen that in some of the recent friendlies. Very, very exciting. So even though I can't come up with a particular name that I'd like to see at Everton, there's a lot to choose from.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned some good talent there, man. Aronson's one I really have liked for a long time. He's a fun player. I don't know if he's physical enough for the Premier League yet. But hey, there are players that aren't super physical that find a way to carve things out. You know what I mean? Like I was worried about Pulisic's physicality. Well, I do think it is giving him some. I do think he needs to work on his durability. And I think that's where a lot of the more slight players that come to the league, that's where they kind of get found out a little bit, is durability. So I think that's where you'll see you almost needed one of the more sturdy players. That's why I worry about somebody like a Gio Reyna, who is a fantastic player. And I definitely would want him at Everton. I'm just going to say it. I would, yes. Fantastic vision. What a smart kid. What a smart player. But,
of course, it's a better investment if you get a guy while he's developing both physically and as a player. And as long as you've got him and he develops with you, rather than trying to get him when he's a complete package, and then it's next to impossible, especially for maybe for a club like Everton to throw the cash at players like Pulisic or some of the others that get to that level.
And Gio Reyna is going to go for a lot, by the way. He's going to go for a lot of money whenever he leaves Dortmund. He's a player that I think actually could contribute. Who actually is developing though is a player who just recently, I think he left FC Dallas. It's Reggie Cannon. He's a right back. And he plays in Portugal right now for Boa Vista. And he's a young right back. And I feel like he's the right back version of Anthony Robinson, the closest thing at right back that I can think of right off the, you know what I mean? Just somebody who has more experience at that position. He's a good young player, but he's raw. He needs time. And that's what he's getting now. He's playing in Portugal now. He's getting those minutes. He's becoming more durable and becoming a better player. So he's one of those who spent a lot of time developing, he was in the MLS And MLS is great, but if you want to make the step up, it really helps to have some years in a different league beforehand, preferably in Europe. So I think it's a smart. But he's a player I would love to have, because the good news is about a player like that, they don't have to start coming in. You know. So anyway, somebody like Pulisic though, you'd almost have to start him right out of the gate. You know. So there's a lot of good young talent, man. It's just so many of them are being developed in the MLS, which is a totally different type of league. You know, it's just a different animal altogether. It's so weird. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So that is a conversation that actually probably could go on another hour if we really wanted to do it. Next, let's move on to some transfer-based questions. A lot of transfer questions, people. It's almost like it's the transfer window or something. So weird. Toffees_1 asks, will Aaron's come? Then Julian Q_99 says, Dele, Isco, Eriksson, Aaron's, possibly Donnarumma in the summer. And then Oscar, age 16, asks, who do you want Everton to sign this January and next summer? And then Alfie Vaughn, 10, asks, do you think Bernard should stay or leave? Then, I mean, this is a lot. This is all transfer stuff, guys. I guess it's VAR till 23. I think that's it. I wrote it down in my handwriting. So sorry. Asks, how serious is our interest in Eriksson, do you think? So all these are transfer. And then there's a question about Moise Kean that we need to get to. I think that's just good conversation anyway. So let's cover the others, and then let's get to Moise Kean, because the others I feel like are shorter conversations. You know what I mean?
Shorter because we're not sure what's going to happen or if anything's going to happen. And we were talking offline, Gerry, about Carlo Ancelotti in December, kind of throwing a little cold water on incomings for January. But the interesting thing is I was looking for that particular story, and when I Googled Carlo Ancelotti incomings, I got a lot of stories about Carlo Ancelotti when he was at Real Madrid, talking about we're not having any incomings in January. So I think Carlo likes to either it's his way of deflecting those questions, and he just wants to focus on the upcoming match and not deal with answering those questions. It's entirely possible. We know how tough January is. It's a really, really tough window. I would love for Everton to build in some depth in January, because I think it would be huge. If they bring in an Eriksson, if they bring in a Sami Khedira, a Dele Alli. I love, the thing is I love all the rumors. Sign them all. I love all the rumors. But I don't know how much we're going to see in terms of incomings. I think we'll potentially see some outgoings. We'll see maybe Cenk Tosun, but I don't know. It depends on our striker situation now. Yep. Maybe that's changed. Jared Branthwaite, possibly with a loan to Blackburn. That might be a good situation for him. So we'll see. I'm most intrigued, I think, by the Moise Kean, and we can move on to that when you're ready. But that's really what intrigues me most. I think the rumors are what they are. Mm-hmm. I do hope we bring in some quality depth, but honestly, I can't tell the validity of one rumor from another rumor. And Carlo's not tipping his hand. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I sort of feel like I'm more lost now because of our recent form with our defense. I was thinking, hey, we're going to bring in a right back, won't we? That'll happen, right? Has to, right? And what's happened is we've got a a very sound back line right now, and we're playing a player who has played a lot of right back in the past. True, however, he is a natural center back, and it's sort of we're kind of doing things differently now. So I am more lost when it comes to our transfers. I almost feel like a striker is more likely now.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, the majority of these rumors are not strikers. They're not. You know, Erickson, no. Dele Ali, no. Isco, no. Aaron's, no. Don't remember. No, none of these are, man. And so I'm like, where's the striker rumors if we're gonna bring somebody in?
Yeah, we're getting Allen back soon. Mm-hmm. Maybe we're getting Jiba Mean back. I don't know. I think he's still think he's a hologram, but maybe he's coming in. And you're seeing kind of this squad kind of become more flexible, more adaptable as we kind of go on. Definitely need some cover at striker. I think the injury to DCL is something that we feared. It doesn't sound like this is anything serious, and we could see him back for the next match. But it's a wake-up call, and I think it's a wake-up call for the club as well. Got to have some cover at that position for him, because in this league, anything can happen, and with the way the fixture load is, as we've seen over the past few weeks, got to have some flexibility there. So are we going to talk about the PSG kid? Or is that a decent segue into the subject, or do you want to
really quickly? I will mention Aaron's, who could be a fantastic player for us. I'm just going to say I hesitate to think we'll go that big with a purchase in January.
Right,
that's a big purchase for January in COVID days. Okay, January, which is a complicated thing already, and then with pandemic stuff, I hesitate to think we'll pay that much for a player. I just have difficulty believing it. So, so give me your Keane info. What do you think?
Well, I know he's enjoying himself in Paris, and he's appeared. He's had 13 appearances, 913 minutes. That averages to a little bit over 70 minutes per match, and he scored 9 goals. I think it's 9, unless it changes by the day, it seems.
Yeah.
And he's enjoying himself. I guess they just won a trophy. He's playing with Neymar. He's in Paris. He's having the time of his life. But from an Everton perspective, this loan has accomplished exactly what I would think Everton wanted it to accomplish. He's playing, he's scoring, he's gaining confidence, and he's still our player. Now, whether we can pluck him away from Neymar and Paris and somehow make him happy at some point coming off the bench for Everton, and accepting of that role, now that he's kind of gotten a taste of a little bit of stardom with PSG, it's kind of a difficult thing. And when you see numbers thrown out like 31 million, then you start to think maybe he's a commodity and someone that's going to benefit us in other areas because of the return we can get for him.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, because I think either way, we have a valuable player that we can turn into other players, or he's a promising young striker that we can have on our club.
Yeah. I mean,
so
yeah.
Every time he scores, I think it feels like an Everton goal to me. Every time Moise Kean scores, it feels like an Everton goal, because every time he scores, he benefits Everton. He either benefits Everton being increasing his resale value or sale value, or he benefits Everton in the future as a member of their club, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I definitely see the positives when he does well.
And we need a striker.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's such a weird situation, man, because ideally, he's a young striker, which is what we're thin on. You know, we need him, but he's also a young kid who doesn't want to sit the bench. And let's be honest, he would have to be doing a lot of things in addition to what he's doing right now at PSG. He'd have to be doing a lot of like additional things here as well, because he scores most of his goals with the ball on the ground, right? Calvert-Lewin is getting a lot in the air, and we're having to attack from the, those kind of crosses, from the flanks, balls coming in from Luka Dean on the left.
Right.
Yeah, we need, and so right now Calvert-Lewin is exactly what we need as a team, as a club. I always liked him because I was kind of like, hey, he's totally different to Calvert-Lewin. We can put him in, and he's a different wrinkle, and no one's expecting it, and it's great. But I also didn't realize he wants to start now. And he's super. He does. I get the vibe. He is really, like, I think he would be here if he was okay sitting the bench, and not. I think he wants to be told, "You're my starter this year," and if he's not told that, and I'm not completely sure. Like, there's something I admire about that, but also it kind of bugs me if a player's like, I don't want to work my way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he doesn't want to go, you're fine with selling him. Like, sorry. If he doesn't want to come back, you're fine with selling him.
I am, especially if it's at the numbers that we've seen. If that is truly his value, or if that's just, an agent trying to boost some figures. But he's clearly increased his value with his performance with PSG. So loaning him out was the right move by Everton, I think, because there was nothing happening with him. He was sitting there sulking. I mean, I'm assuming, but you can kind of gauge the body language, you can gauge the expression. He was just sitting there. So now he's playing. He's clearly enjoying himself. He's having success. It's entirely possible that maybe they're bringing him back just isn't an option at this point.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm worried about. If I'm being totally honest with you, I'm because initially when the loan happened, I was like, he's going to be in front of goal a lot. He's going to get the chance to, find his legs, find his goal legs instead of sea legs, his goal legs. Being in front of goal, and then he's going to come back and he's going to have so much more confidence. He's going to be more polished in front of goal. He will have played with great players. I was like, this just is going to be a good thing if he wants to stay at Everton. And if not, he's going to go there. He's going to score tons of goals, and he's going to make us some money, and it will have been an investment, and that paid off, and everything's okay. And I just have to count on the fact that our purchases, for the most part, have been solid. And if we buy another player, probably going to be somebody that works out.
Yeah.
So but the question, by the way, came from this is fun. Bowsy Toffee Tits, and that was the username, and basically the question was, do we cash in on Keane now given the COVID climate, because player sales, do we need to take that money now? Buying and selling players not the easiest thing right now. So I think it's a very valid question. And I gotta. Do I think we could maybe get a little more than 31? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
As
I hadn't considered the timing with COVID and how that's impacting revenues and in the transfer market. That is an interesting point, and that's another. If you're weighing the pros and the cons, or you're weighing, bringing back or sell, that. It's possible that his value right now might not be higher. He intrigues me because he's experiencing success at a very young age, and he's seeing his name in lights at a very young age. It's always intriguing to see how those players, what they end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Romelu Lukaku at one point in his career kind of saw his name in lights, figuratively, and said, I could be with a bigger club, and I could win big things, and I can be a star.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he saw that at Moise Keane's age. So yeah, I'm intrigued by him. I think he plays with a passion. There's a spirit about him. But I also think that he has very high standards for himself.
Right.
I also think he believes. I think he knows he's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think he knows he's good, and he wants to be somewhere where he can prove that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he got into a situation where, he comes. It's not the best timing, in terms of him coming to Everton. I think about Lukaku, and Lukaku was scoring so much for us. You know what I mean? He was scoring so much. So he could sit there and, he could potentially say, well, I think I'm bigger than Everton right now. And, fans from other teams would say, maybe he is, but with Moise Keane, I think number one, I don't think he thinks that necessarily. I think he thinks I just want to play. Right. Mm-hmm. I think if he was starting for Everton this season, at the beginning of this season, he'd still be here. So I don't think it's some infer like a lack of happiness at Everton. No, I think he just wants to play.
He just wants to play.
And I look at him. Yeah. He gets to play with Mbappe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you kidding? That front line.
Obviously he gets to play with Mbappe. He gets to play with Neymar. And I didn't, by saying he's kind of sitting there sulking, you bring up a great point, because to clarify, I don't think he's sitting there sulking because he's at Everton. He's sitting there sulking because he's not on the pitch at that moment.
And he was
wants to play.
I got the vibe sometimes he was almost sulking on the pitch when he scored. He scored a goal in a cup match, and it seemed like he was not all that enthused. And some people were like, "He's not happy. What's going on here?"
Right.
So I definitely saw the body language that you're talking about. I saw it. But also imagine you're coming in from another country and you're competing with another player that is from the same country, and that player is the incoming starter, and you would almost feel like that player is getting more opportunities on the pitch than you are. It's almost like you almost wonder, like you would almost be thinking, gosh, I wish I had been given those same minutes. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would be scoring the same amount of goals, and maybe there's a sort of resentment on that, potentially. I don't know. Yeah. I could see it. I don't think it's an unnatural human.
Well, he's obviously a very competitive kid, and again, there's nothing at all wrong with that. That's what you want.
Yeah.
So he wants the right situation for him, and I don't know that Everton can provide him that currently, because it'd be one thing if DCL hadn't developed as he has at his age.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if we were still waiting, as we were, 2 years ago, for DCL to kind of become something. It's really just kind of poor timing with Moise Keane, and maybe the signing of Moise Keane. It's entirely possible that brands knew kind of what the end game might be with him, and maybe they didn't know maybe they thought maybe this guy could play a role for us, but if he doesn't, we kind of see an end game here. You don't want to call these guys commodities necessarily, but that's the way kind of the business works, right? He's a great player, and seems like a great kid. But you kind of look at it as, okay, we're signing this guy. We know we have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and then DCL emerges, and then they say, well, okay, there's some value in this guy. But I think Evertonians were ready. We really wanted to embrace him. Just the Brands' interaction with his mom on signing day. My pals at County Road with the banner. The Evertonians embraced Moise Keane and really wanted to bring him into the family because they knew he went through a difficult time, with the racist taunts. So I think we were ready to embrace him, but it's just a situation. It hasn't worked out. Now, maybe it will eventually. We'll just have to wait and see, but it is difficult because we need a striker. But like you said, I think he wants to play.
Yeah.
He wants to be the guy.
I wish he was cool with just playing what he can, because it's almost like, here's the funny thing, man. It's almost like we bought a striker that is too good to be a backup. You know what I mean? Like, he's too valuable to be a backup. And that's how we made a mistake. If we wanted to get a player that played, if we wanted to get a backup, we needed to do a poorer job, a worse job of finding someone who, because he was too valuable to be a backup. It's crazy.
This might be too broad of a topic to squeeze into this show, but is there a solution tactically to having Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Moise Keane and getting and him and them playing regularly interchangeably? Is there kind of a solution there where you're playing both of them?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Question for Carlo Ancelotti.
It is.
I don't know.
Because I wish I could keep watching him just shed defenders. That was one of my favorite things when he would get in, just to watch people like go in and try to body him and then just bounce off of him and just poof.
Yeah.
It was like that Mike Alstott noise, that poof,
Like you said, but I don't know what you sacrifice defensively. There's a lot of other things to consider, but you have DCL, who's so good in the air. You have Keane, who's so good on the ground, and how they could potentially complement each other. I don't know. I'm throwing out, we had Gylfi Sigurdsson and James up front.
I know.
And we beat Wolves 2-1. So now I'm all excited. I want to experiment. I want to play two strikers. I want DCL and Moise Keane on the pitch at the same time.
I would have loved
right now, right?
I would have loved to see us play around with him as a possibility when we were messing around with like 4-3-3 early in the season, like really early. When we had everybody healthy, that would have been a time where it'd been like, okay, just be one of those front three and see what happens. Let's just dabble. I don't know, man. Anyway, I think both of us would say if he wants to go, we sell him. Period.
Yeah.
I think with the caveat, my caveat is, let's just be sure we're getting everything we can.
Yeah.
One last transfer question we did not mention. or I mentioned, but I didn't actually address. It was Alfie Vaughn's. Do you think Bernard should stay or leave? Let's make this one pretty quick. Jeff, Bernard. What do you think about him, real quick?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer at this point, because at this point, I don't really want to see. I wouldn't want to see him leave, because we need depth. We don't really have a choice in that matter. Now, if our situation changes and we bring in quality depth in January, we bring in one or two players. I don't know. What is Bernard's contract situation?
I do not
No.
remember. I don't know. Yeah.
Bernard's a great. He's a great piece off the. I like a good Bernard sub, but he's another guy. Is difficult to kind of read into. Is he happy in the role that he's in?
I have the same questions. I think that's a great question, because he seems like somebody who feels like he's good enough to start, right?
Sure.
But you don't hear him. You don't see a lot of the body language, though. You don't see that. He seems like he's willing to work. He's willing to be patient and deal. But I don't know. But you do keep hearing these Bernard rumors.
He comes off the bench with a ton of energy, and there's no. There's no body language or negative kind of. No, he comes off the bench with a lot of energy, and so does Andre Gomes, who was a guy who was starting for us, and now he's coming off the bench, and he doesn't seem to mind that. So, but should he stay or should he go? At the moment, we need him. But I guess we'll see how things shake out down the road.
I agree with you. I want him to stay. Depth is one of the things we need right now. I feel like when the idea of sacrificing a position for someone who's already like into the squad, and I'm trying to imagine a scenario where we upgrade on him in January, and I just don't know if we're bringing anybody in who's going to bring the same spark, because he does offer something different to other players. He comes in, there's a guile to his work, and not everybody has it. Hardly anyone has it, actually. And he's a tricky guy. He's clever. Is he going to bang a bunch of goals? Not really, but he is an instigator. He makes things happen.
What did we worry about with Bernard when he came in? We worried about how he would hold up physically in the Premier League, being a small guy, right? Well, coming off the bench and playing the minutes that he's playing right now, that's not really a concern. He can come in and he can just do what he does. There's no fatigue issues. He's not getting banged around. He can come in and just do what he does with the ball, and maybe that aspect of it he kind of enjoys. But I'm sure he wants to. I'm sure he feels like he's good enough to start a lot of places, and I would agree with that.
If he wants to leave, I would have trouble letting him go in January.
Yeah.
I've got,
because like you said, how do you replace that skill?
Yeah.
Who do you replace that skill set with? It's somewhat unique what he brings.
Yeah. So anyway, and something we haven't mentioned, but we should. He's got one of the best songs. Can't leave. That song's awesome.
Right.
My kids sing it all the time. All right. We can't. Just saying. So last question. This one is a little more on the serious side. But yet it comes from, it's another one from Bowsy Toffee Tits. More and more teams are being affected by COVID. And there's a longer statement here, but I abbreviated. But the main question is, should they pause this season? Because we're starting to see a lot of delays in some of these matches. It's kind of throwing off preparation of teams. It's just some stuff is happening, and
Yeah.
it seems as though it's getting more and more serious. So you feel like a pause is in order. And here's the crazy thing, like maybe you know more about how the situation in Britain than I do in terms of COVID right now, Jeff. I don't know if I'm super equipped to give an answer based on, what, like, because I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's a difficult question that we've obviously had to deal with here with all of our major sports. Because on one hand, you have um, the moral and ethical question, and the of the fact that your country is locked down, um, and they're now in their, what is it, the second lockdown in the
Mm-hmm.
country in England. And I don't know if Liverpool is in tier 3 now. I'm not sure where Liverpool stands at the moment. So you're playing football and people are dying. And it's something that we had to deal with here. And on one hand, people say you need, the people they need sports. That's what we said in America. But we need our sports because we're going
Mm-hmm.
through all of this, and we need our sports. Well, you really don't in the grand scheme of things. But I think there's a way to make it safe. There's a way to play and make it safe. There's a way to keep your players and the players' families safe as best as possible. As we know with this virus, there is nothing that will protect you 100%. Everybody's being impacted by it.
By the way, they are in tier 3.
They're tier 3 now. Okay.
Oh, it says they moved from tier 2 to tier 3 on December 30th.
Okay.
And they joined the nation in lockdown.
Okay.
So yeah, I just really quickly looked that up just so we could be
Yeah.
more up to date on that, because I was.
Yeah, and it's been difficult because fans were able to attend matches, and then all of a sudden they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have more disappointing stories with Kyle Walker and others violating protocol and endangering themselves and their teammates, and most importantly, their families. Because people forget that the players that are infected, we think of it in terms of, can they play? Can their teams play? And you don't realize that player might have a wife and children who now need to be tested as well because he brought the virus home. Mm-hmm. Again, in most of these cases, there's really not much anyone can do. We're all being impacted by this. But when you hear about the players that are violating the protocols and putting themselves in that position, that's disappointing. So, yeah. But anyway, we could spend a long time talking about this. So it's a difficult question to answer. I'm glad they're playing football. But yeah, there's always going to be that kind of uncomfortable feeling of you're playing a football match at Goodison Park, and then outside, the people are at the homes right across the people who live on Goodison Road, and there's nobody can leave their house because you're on lockdown. So it's just a very surreal time. I hope they get the season in. But you have to do it the right way, and you have to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, before hearing about Villa having an outbreak, and dealing with just a lot of people testing positive, evidently, I would have said, no, let's not pause. Let's keep going where we're going. I'm starting to wonder if a pause is not the smart way to go. I don't really know. But again, I don't live there. So I
Right.
just,
Yeah.
so
And we have precedent here.
mm,
Obviously, we played, well, an abbreviated Major League Baseball season, but we got through it, had a World
mm,
Series. We're going to get through, or looks like we'll get through the NFL season. We got through college football. It was a bumpy
mm,
road. Um, so there's a way to get it done.
yeah,
MLS had their bubble, and that seemed to that worked pretty well in Orlando.
yeah,
But there's no perfect solution.
no,
Um, I feel for the stadium employees and the club staff, because those are
mm,
the ones that are those people. That's their livelihood.
yeah,
Uh, I feel for, and I made it a point to, and I know a lot of other Evertonians did too, that the guys that run the souvenir stand out in front of Goodison Park.
oh,
I think they also sell out in front of our neighbor's stadium as well. And I know they set up an online. They have a website, and we're selling their stuff on there. And I know a lot of Evertonians bought. I bought a couple of scarves, a
well,
great Holy Trinity scarf, and another Dixie Dean scarf. But it felt good to help them out, because those are the people that are really going through a hard time, because
yeah,
they depend on those matches. It's one thing
yeah,
for the fans to not be able to go, and I feel badly for them, but those guys depend on those matches happening at Goodison Park
yeah.
on Saturdays, and it's impacted their livelihood. So it's difficult for everyone, I guess, is the best way to kind of sum it up.
Yeah, and I would say, uh, for me on these types of conversations, I don't know if there is a right answer. I think it would take a lot of time to discuss and, you know, pair things out to decide which is the most right for the location, for the people there, for the public.
Right.
Trying to work all that out. It's tough because any answer that we give is going to be uh, knee jerk based on information that we see, you
Right.
know, and our experience is here in a across an ocean,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway, very fascinating. Good question, by the way, to Mr. or Mrs. Bowsy Toffee Tits. I just want to say is a, it's a great question. So that's the end of the show, Jeff. We're done. So yeah, do you have anything you wanna plug real quick?
Just,
Anything?
you know what? It just, isn't it a ton of fun to just talk about what we're talking about right now with this club,
Mm,
and to look at the table and to look ahead of us in the table. We're looking up, and we're not looking behind us,
yeah,
as we have at times over the past few years. To have confidence in your manager, to have confidence that the players are going to show up every match and put a shift in. Um, it's a horrible thing that fans aren't there to see this club. But if you look at the direction this club is heading, and the commitment that everyone has to achieving big things, and Bramley Moore on the horizon, that the nice thing is that uh, yeah, the fans are missing this now. They're missing this initial period of success, but this is just a start. And when we come out of COVID and 40,000 are back at Goodison Park, at that point, uh, I think they're going to see they're going to see the fruits of everyone's labor, and they're going to see that complete club.
yeah,
They're going to see the quality depth on the bench. They're going to see a starting 11 that may be even stronger than what we're seeing right now. And they're going to be able to celebrate a trophy together and put COVID and everything else that we've dealt with in the rearview mirror. So it's exciting. It's just a lot of fun to be an Evertonian. It's always fun to be an Evertonian. I shouldn't say that. It's always fun. win, lose or draw, every day is an adventure, and that's what's great about it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to talk about a win, especially the way they went about things over the weekend. So
such good energy right now. It's really good
yeah,
energy this season. You know,
I don't want to. You were talking about a pause. I don't want to pause we've got this 10 days where I think we have the cup match, but we don't have a league match for 10 days. I don't want to stop now. This is no time to stop.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say, Jeff, hearing you talk about Everton, it's just like I was going to sarcastically be like, oh, Jeff, it's a shame you're not passionate about it, right? I mean, no, it's just inspirational. You know, I hear you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, he's right. I agree. You know, it's just, it's love hearing you talk like that. It's just, it's a nice little reminder. I love it. So Jeff, with that, we're done. I want to say thank you to the guest, Jeff Wallner here. Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. As always, just love talking to you.
Anytime. Yeah, ton of fun. So yeah, look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, man. I hope to have you on again soon. If nothing else, just to catch up, just to see how you're doing. You know, we can talk about the Ring of Power.
I will be doing some Google research because that's what I do. I do research. So I could be out ahead of your tough questions next time.
You're doing fine. You don't need
your hard hitting football related questions that you stumped me on.
Oh no, those would be too easy.
Right.
You would know those, Jeff.
Right.
All right. So anyway, just to get all the plugging out of the way, just want to make sure everybody, if you've been listening, if you enjoy what you're hearing and or seeing, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues podcast, but also the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. Lots of good content, lots of cool guys who they know they're Everton, and maybe you just want to watch just to argue with them. Cool, let's do it. All right. So please subscribe. Also, please follow the Toffee Blues on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And also, there's a Toffee Blues website where there's a lot of written content on there as well. Lots of good stuff on there, and some contributors that show up on this channel often. Last thing. There's my book, Randolph the Christmas Moose, available on Amazon. Please buy it, write a review. I'd appreciate it. If you've ever wondered what it's like for a moose to be inspired to do the job of a flying reindeer, this is that book. No, in all honesty, it's all about an identity, finding an identity and empowerment, and just not letting other people dictate who you're supposed to be, right?
Sounds a lot like Everton.
Honestly,
sounds a lot like Everton.
It came from an Everton podcast. It came from the Toffee Blues, just saying. So anyway, Randolph the Christmas Moose, available on Amazon. There you go. That's the end of my plugging. Jeff, thanks again, man. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon, my man.
All right. Take care.
All right, everybody else out there. Hope to talk to y'all soon as well. And let's hope everybody's staying safe out there, and Everton get to play again soon, because roll on the positive mojo. Much love, everybody. Bye.